Professor Black Ops, Cybersecurity for the people. You see it, let's get it. Microsoft Azure Blob leaks a lesson to CISOs about cloud security responsibility. This is the catch right here. Microsoft apparent misconfiguration of its own cloud bucket exposed third-party intellectual property. Microsoft apparent misconfiguration of its own cloud bucket exposed third-party intellectual property. So if Microsoft can't configure their own cloud, who else can? So that lets you know you need to really be on top of your cloud security. So that's the picture. They misconfigured, so now we got data leaking all out. So it would have in what appears to be self-inflicted wound, Microsoft misconfigured its own Azure Blob cloud storage bucket, which housed third-party data according to vpnMentor. The company in effect scored an on globe in the favor of those stealing intellectual property. Right, so Microsoft misconfigured its own cloud so it was open for hackers to actually just come in and steal. Not hackers, I'm gonna call them script kiddies. Anybody just happenstance looking around could actually steal intellectual property of some of the companies bidding for some work for Microsoft. Microsoft, as its research discovered, then warned the company of this discovered misconfiguration. A variety of organizations whose information was found within the data bucket were pitching Microdynamics in hopes of establishing a partnership with Microsoft. Microsoft had a different level of vendors. If you get to a certain level, Microsoft would actually recommend you for third-party work. The report described how 100 pitch decks and source code from 10 to 15 companies was exposed. Company entrusted Microsoft to their companies entrusted to Microsoft their ideas of intellectual property as part of the effort to become part of a Microsoft Dynamics CRM ecosystem, and unknowingly had their ideas and intellectual property placed at risk by the misconfiguration. So when people review your company security, you need to make sure their security is reviewed. But we also know Microsoft is one of the big behemoths in the cloud industry. They actually have one of the top security companies or agencies in the world. Shared responsibility model. As to who has ownership of such misconfiguration, Mentor Research Team tells me we can say that the shared responsibility model puts the burden of properly securing data in the hands of the user. Various parties and user organizations may have different short-term priorities and different levels of understanding of concepts of security. This can end up leaving sensitive data exposed. Regardless of the underlying cloud stack, this can have a dire consequences. So we're in a shared model. Who's responsible for it? Is it the vendor, the client, right? So you got to figure out who is responsible for that. The concept of shared responsibility is one that CISOs should pursue. The cloud provider is responsible for the security of the cloud, while the customer is responsible for the security in the cloud. CISOs who drive the idea home to all the way may be placing data in an externally controlled cloud environment. We see with great regularity how cloud storage owners fail to make their storage buckets private. They often exclude multiple level of access and authentication process and procedures cloud could have put in place to be used to protect their data. As more and more of data takes up residence in the cloud, be it Azure Blob, AWS 3, configuring the environment to restrict access from those without the need to know is a basic table stake. Right, that's basic configuration. So once again, if Microsoft can't get it right on their own cloud, I think we're in a world of hurt, people. Microsoft misconfiguration was 63 gigabytes of data, 3,800 files, which was being created in 2016. While they may be viewed as inconsequential in 2021, the owner of the information should be one to determine the current value. That's true, even though they're old files, and I'm sure that the companies that did those presentations probably got better security, more security, different security. It still was their data, and Microsoft is responsible for that and should be the caretaker of that data. Michael Quinn, CEO of Active Cipher, said in this instance it's hard to track down who was actually to blame. With external consultants, vendors, and expanding workforces of access to a vast swath of key data, companies are facing an uphill battle on their quest to create a secure data supply chain. The current network ecosystem have in recent months has been exposed as porous or prone to compromise. Losing sight of the goal, which is data protection, and redoubling the effort has only resulted in the same outcome. He adds that the true approach is to provide data protection in the file level, regardless of the point of creation or whether it rests at rest or in transit or external. This can negate the usefulness of the data being compromised or even exfiltrated. So once again, the three places data should be protected is at rest, in transit, or even external. The case for cloud security posture. The survey report, in conjunction with the Cloud Security Alliance, noted how cloud storage misconfiguration are not limited to data exposure. The report highlights how 26% of the outages were associated with cloud providers' issues, while another 21% were associated with security misconfiguration. The report also noted 50% of information security teams charged with security management are using cloud orchestration management tool, with about 35% using homegrown scripts and 29% are using manual processes. Therefore, expertise does not reside in-house, then third-party providers with the necessary expertise to provide cloud security posture management. Service should be pursued. These providers can be expected to continue monitoring of the cloud instance, identifying remediation involving risk. The number of frequency of configuration error may lead IT executives to believe convenience of access to data is more important than securing the information. They will not be wrong. Security awareness and education initiatives explain why behind securely configuring cloud environments will be time well spent. So once again, Professor Black Ops, cybersecurity for the people. If Microsoft can't configure their cloud correctly, who can?